All right, Magic Miles, I am going with it. You know what? You got those numbers, you got the look, you got the pizzazz. Let's go with it. Adi Kittner will help the two teams tip it off, and Miles has the ball in her hands to get us started. Notre Dame in Navy, get your starting five. Maya Dodson, Dara Mabry, Peoples, and Westbelt along with Miles. There's Mabry swinging it across. Miles, Niele Ivey has asked her to be a scoring threat as well, not just a set up your teammates kind of point guard. And speaking of point guards, Mila Goodchild making her first start of the season. Now, Day Wilson does come off the bench, has been a great spark off the bench, leads the Blue Devils in scoring despite not having started at all this season. There is your starting five for the Blue Devils. Akinbadi James makes her second straight start along with Gordon, Balagoon, and Celeste Taylor, the transfer out of Texas, who's been a big spark. And it's a bit of a rough start for both teams, Cal.
That's right, and Duke struggled up at Virginia Tech in their most recent game. Didn't have shy Day Wilson, the freshman phenom, but they struggled to score. And so I think that's part of the move here for Coach Kara Lawson, putting Goodchild at point guard and not starting Vanessa De Jesus, who's much more of a pass-first point guard. She wants to have a little more shooting and scoring on the floor because Notre Dame can score with the best of them. So that's part of Duke's mindset, I believe, today.
Yeah, let's not forget about Maddie Westbeld, the reigning ACC Rookie of the Year, coming off a season high 22 points in Notre Dame's last game, which was a high-scoring affair, 91-86 win at DePaul back on December 22nd. From the corner, the three is up and out, and Westbeld also great on the glass for the Irish.
Notre Dame will play a lot of zone, trying to guard Duke's shooters, trying to make sure Duke can't really utilize that 4-out, 1-in offense against a man, so they're playing zone. And keep an eye on Notre Dame as well on the backside. They are great rebounding out of that zone.
Duke will try another three. The Blue Devils, one of the top teams in the conference, top five, and knocking down the three. That's Lexi Gordon, the grad transfer from Texas Tech.
Duke is going to need to make some threes today, and Lexi Gordon is a player that started the season so hot from three and has cooled off lately, so that's a very good sign for Duke that she's already on the board. And Jen, Duke wants to keep this game in the half court. Notre Dame likes to run, and Duke will pick their points to run as well, but I think if this game is played primarily in the half court, that benefits Duke. And just as I say that, Olivia Miles gets her hands on a ball, gets out in transition, little finger roll for two. That's not what Duke wants. You cannot give Notre Dame live ball turnovers.
I mean, this is a fun young player to watch on both ends of the floor. She's showing us. Look at Duke swinging it around, getting an open look in the corner and draining it. That's Goodchild, who's on the verge of moving into the top 10 all-time in terms of career three-pointers made.
I love what Coach Lawson has done early. She knew Notre Dame was going to play zone, or at least maybe had a hunch, and she put a lot of shooters on the floor. Notre Dame so far struggling a bit to rotate and get out on all those shooters. Goodchild makes them pay.
That's Anea Peoples trying to make something of a busted play, and there is Niele Ivey in her second year as head coach at Notre Dame. We saw her there along the sidelines for 12 seasons with our Hall of Famer Muffet McGraw, who've now stolen and is in studio for us this afternoon. But I love this coaching matchup we have in this game, Kelly. You and I were talking about it with Niele Ivey on one side, Kara Lawson on the other. I mean, two really interesting stories in terms of their paths to get where they are.
No doubt about it. As the veteran, Elizabeth Balagoon gets on the board. She's coming off a great game versus Virginia Tech. This is one of the most exciting coaching matchups that you'll see all day for sure in women's hoops today as you're surfing the channels when you have Kara Lawson and Niele Ivey. Incredibly accomplished and still quite young in their careers. So stay tuned for more info on them as we go throughout the broadcast.
And the Blue Devils starting to pick things up offensively. There's Celeste Taylor. 4 different Blue Devils have scored to give them this 10-4 lead. Miles looking for an option. That's Sonia Citron, another very talented freshman to keep an eye on in this game. Sam Brunel in off the bench for the Irish. She puts it off the glass and in.
There aren't many teams in the country that just bring McDonald's All-Americans off their bench, and that's what Notre Dame's doing right now with Citron, who's been great as a freshman, and Sam Brunel, who's played a good amount of minutes off the bench for them as well.
Balagoon with the shot for Duke. You mentioned her as the veteran, not necessarily in a Duke Blue Devil uniform, but in a uniform in the ACC for sure. Was at Louisville last couple of years, Georgia Tech before that. Swish goes the bucket for Miles. I like the pace so far here, Kelly. Two teams moving up and down the floor. Gordon right at that ACC logo.
Both of these teams want to play quickly, and it's a stark contrast, Jen, from the game that you had on previously if you were watching. The defensive battle between Louisville and Georgia Tech, first to 51. In this game, it may be first to 80 because we're seeing some offense, and I love it. Both of these teams can score at a very high level.
Blue Devils started 0 of 2 from the floor, 5 of 6 since, trying to keep that going. Balagoon in the paint, walked. Well, we told you about this coaching matchup being an intriguing one. We will give you some more of those details. Take a little look back in their past when we come back. We have some superstars on the sidelines in this matchup. Kara Lawson, of course, many of you remember her, great career playing for Pat Summitt at Tennessee. Then she went on for quite a long career in the WNBA, 13 years there. Went to the NBA as an assistant coach, picked up a couple of tricks, and now in her second season as Duke. And there are some interesting parallels, aren't there, Kelly, with what we've just talked about with Neil Ivey at Notre Dame, too?
No doubt. This may be, we weren't able to confirm, but we believe this is the first time in women's college hoops that we have two coaches who both coached in the NBA and are now coaching their respective institutions. And they're both in their second year. They were both incredible point guards in college ball. As you see, Neil Ivey here, point guard at Notre Dame, won the national title in 2001. She was also drafted into the WNBA, and then of course was a longtime assistant under Coach McGraw at Notre Dame. She flew the nest, if you will, was an assistant coach for the Memphis Grizzlies the same year that Kara Lawson was with Boston, and now she's in her second year at Notre Dame. So these two very similar paths, Jen, and they've told us what they brought from the NBA game. You see a lot of NBA influence in both of their teams and their systems, their offensive sets, and things of that nature.
And both, when you think about that, the coaching legacy, the trees that they are, the branches from which they've grown. You've got a bit of Pat Summitt maybe in there, of course, with Kara Lawson and Muffet McGraw. Big influence as Neil Ivey as well. And Jade Williams off the bench for Duke has her first points. Couple new players just came in off the bench of that timeout. Jade Williams being one of them. Cheyenne Day Wilson, number 30 in white, being another. So keep an eye on her. Leading scorer for the Blue Devils. Did not get to play, was in health and safety protocol in their last game Thursday at Virginia Tech.
And of course, she's guarding Olivia Miles, so even better, that freshman phenom matchup that we talked about earlier.
Good defensive stop there by the Blue Devils. The crowd applauding that effort.
And because both of these teams are so good on the offensive end, have so many weapons, can score in many different ways, whichever team is able to put together the most stops, whether it's 3 stops in a row at a given time or just key stops down the stretch, is probably going to win this game. So, I mean, offense is the name of the game for both of these teams, but whoever gets the most defensive stops is probably going to have the advantage.
Ooh, because we may have some pace here, Kelly. You can see Notre Dame and Miles, they're ready to go in transition. That was the number one thing Kara Lawson talked about when she talked about facing this Notre Dame team. And then when you get Day Wilson on the floor for Duke, their pace picks up as well.
It definitely does. Look at this pass from Olivia Miles. She is constantly giving you the no-look action. She does such a good job with her eyes of looking off the defender, especially when she gets in the middle of the floor around that free throw line. I can almost guarantee you, if it's in transition, wherever she's looking, the ball is not going there. And of course, in that situation, she telegraphed that pass a little bit, and it was a turnover.
And then it is Day Wilson getting fouled, as Duke wasted no time in trying to take advantage of that turnover.
Miles definitely not pleased with herself. You could make the argument that Brunel needed to hold that seal, but overall, that was just a great play by Lee Volker, the freshman coming off the bench for Duke. She saw where that pass was going, got her hands on it, and got the ball to Day Wilson, let her get out and run.
First point of the game for Day Wilson, who averages just under 13 points per game, first amongst ACC freshmen. Well, that's a good start for her at the line as well. She was shooting just about 58% coming into this game from the line. Certainly that's a number you would imagine she would like to improve upon as the season goes along.
And one of my favorite things as a player, Jen, as Citron, jeez, what an incredible move. She's also a freshman. But one of my favorite things as a player is your first time you shoot the rock is at the free throw line. So you get there, you get plenty of time to set your feet, take your time, see the ball go through the net. That's a good sign for Day Wilson and for Duke.
In the paint, good movement by Akinbadi James, but couldn't finish. Can the Blue Devils get back? Yeah.
Exactly, how quick Notre Dame, they push the rock. Their secondary breaks is incredible. And watch their post players when they get out in transition. Westbeld, Brunel, Dodson, they run the floor so well. They make it easy for their guards to find them.
Miles, Brunel both going to the bench. Celeste Taylor picked up that foul for Duke, her first. Westbeld saw Citron wide open in the paint. She may not get an easier look than that all game.
In this kind of offensive game with this kind of pace, you gotta make the bunnies, you gotta make the layups. Maybe not the best shot there from Day Wilson, forcing it.
Peoples pushing the other way, but it'll go back to Duke.
And Jim, we talked about the NBA influence with both of these coaches, with Kara Lawson and with Niele Ivey. You'll notice that very few times do either of these teams use the whole shot clock. In the NBA, there's a 24-second shot clock. They want to get a shot up pretty quickly. They don't want to use the whole time. And I think that is an NBA influence for both of these coaches and why these teams want to play so fast and get out and run.
Day Wilson looking a little off on the couple of shots that she's taken in the game so far. Not so for Dodson. Got her positioning. She has 4 for Notre Dame. We've got a tie game, but you wonder for Day Wilson how much time she actually had to be able to practice and get in the gym since she was out with that health and safety protocol.
And you had Christmas break, so it's a big, I'm not exactly sure how many days she wasn't able to practice. I think she looks pretty good, Jen, for having been in protocol, and I wouldn't necessarily tell. But you're right, it's a good question, and we just don't know how the protocol overall affects each of these athletes individually.
Under 10 seconds, tie game, quarter 1. It's been back and forth. Citron, what a shot! Not sure they planned it that way, but she looked up, saw an opening, knocked it down, Kelly.
These freshmen are just on a different level. Citron, Miles, Day Wilson. Just a little fumble there. Citron says, no big deal, right in front of the Duke bench. We've got a great game so far in Cameron.
So Notre Dame ends the first quarter on a 7-0 run to take a 3-point lead as we get ready for the start of quarter 2 here at Cameron Indoor. And Kara Lawson, there are a couple of connections between these two programs, Kelly, and Kara Lawson knows Sam Brunel from Notre Dame very well. They won a gold medal together.
No big deal, just gold. Kara Lawson has so many gold medals. She probably just uses them, you know, all over the house, different things. But Sam Brunel on that Youth Olympics gold medal team. And also on that team, Paige Beckers, Aaliyah Boston, and Haley Van Lith, who plays for Louisville. So the basketball world can be a small world at times.
Yeah. three to start off the quarter and tie the game. That was Balagoon for Duke. 5 points in the game now for E, as they call her. Maybe looking inside for Dodson. It just kept her arms high, but traveled as she did so. Dodson, the graduate transfer from Stanford.
And that's a good job by Jade Williams, just trying to keep pushing Dodson lower and lower away from the basket. Even if she had made that catch, she would have been under the basket if they didn't call the traveling. So that's what Jade Williams has to do, is continue to push Dodson, whether it's she's on the block, push her away, or if she gets behind you, push her under the basket.
Here is Williams on the offensive end. 3-second violation. Seen 3 different point guards already in this game for Duke, Kelly. We had Mila Goodchild start off the game running the point, and then Shy Wilson coming off the bench, and now Vanessa DeJesus, who has been starting all season at point, the sophomore in the game at the moment for the Blue Devils.
Kara Lawson is using a bunch of different looks, and she said that's another thing that she got from the Boston Celtics, where they didn't use specific lineups in practice. She didn't say, okay, starters out here, the ones and the twos, if you will. They mix up their lineups a lot in practice, and that's something she really learned from Brad Stevens. So she wouldn't really say she didn't have starters until the day of the game. It's not like she says, all right, starters, go out there. So the fact that she's using all these different lineups, I think, is just reflective of her philosophy, but also what they do in practice.
Yeah. So Dodson on the line after being fouled by Balagoon. Leads the Irish in rebounding on the season, averages just about 11 points per game, is coming off a career-high 28 in that win over DePaul. Empty. That trip to the free throw line, though.
Smart hustle play by Citron. Those are plays that a freshman is just not supposed to make, Jen. The ability to get around the box out on the free throw line, get a hand on it. That's basketball IQ that is just innate for someone like Sonia Citron. These freshmen are blowing me away in this game so far, Jen.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun to watch. And Citron, 4 times named the ACC Freshman of the Week. Dodson, the reigning ACC Player of the Week.
Notre Dame applying a little three-quarter court pressure back into their zone, just trying to force Duke to take more time off the shot clock and not let them play as quickly as they want to.
And they got the look they wanted, and Balagoon knocks it down again. Has had a season high in points each of the last 2 games, including a season high 22 in that loss at Virginia Tech.
Balagoon has looked great. She has stepped up to the plate. They've needed more scoring, especially with Day Wilson out against Virginia Tech. And Balagoon has said, all right, I can do that.
Turnover, Miles, no look. Westfeld Citron, with the finish.
I don't think there's a better point guard specifically in transition in the whole country than Olivia Miles. She is that good. When you're running, when you're getting up and down the floor, when you have numbers, with her vision, she's just great in transition.
Mabry just hounding DeJesus, wins it, goes behind the back. Miles was, she's looking for another dish right there, but nobody quite open, so she pulls it back out. Now she'll drive, take it herself, why not?
She makes it look so easy. It's not that easy, people. If you're watching at home, it's not that easy. She just makes it look that easy. So smooth to the rim.
6 points, 2 assists, and another turnover. That's line on Miles. The turnover by the Blue Devils. Couple possessions in a row, and it results in more points for Dodson and Notre Dame. But Olivia Miles, the freshman, not disappointing.
Finger roll on the right side, too smooth for Olivia Miles. One more time. Look at her work.
Jen Hildreth, Kelly Gramlich, and Kelly, with all this talk about super seniors and transfers, let's not forget how fun it can be to watch some really talented freshmen go to work.
Exactly right, Jen. And I was one of those people that said, well, we have all these super seniors. We have 6th-year, 5th-year players. Perhaps the freshmen won't make as much of an impact. But, I wasn't really talking about Sonia Citron, Olivia Miles, Shy-Day Wilson, because maybe they heard me, Jim, because they have been excellent so far this season and in this game.
Looks like Duke nearly got the look they wanted for Balagoon. Has been their hottest hand. 8 points in the game for Elizabeth Balagoon. Mabry on that 6-0 run has scored or assisted on all of them for the Irish. Passes it up to Dodson, who now has 8.
And that's more points off of turnovers for Notre Dame. These live ball turnovers for Duke have become the main issue for them in this second quarter. 13 points off of turnovers in this game for the Irish.
Balagoon keeps it, makes it. Double digits now for Balagoon to lead Duke. Back and forth we go. The pace has been fun. It's been good so far. Both teams shooting at or over 50% from the floor, but yeah, the turnovers have certainly helped to fuel some of those points in transition for Notre Dame. Gordon's shot is short. And that was Taylor. Excuse me, Celeste Taylor, junior transfer out of Texas.
And Taylor's scoreless in this game, Jen. She has struggled in the last couple of games to score consistently. She's still averaging over 12 points per game on the season, but at one point was their leading scorer, and right now not giving Duke much offensively.
Yeah, how big of a problem is that for Duke? Because she had emerged as one of those players who had become pretty important into what they're trying to do.
Well, it's a huge issue for Duke, and you've seen Balagoon try to be more aggressive and make up for that, and she has. If you see another steal there, she's been so good in the mid-range today. So Balagoon's trying to pick up the slack, but look at Celeste Taylor's numbers in the first 7 games and then since. That is a massive drop-off. It's really the three-point shooting that's been the issue for her. She's still a great rebounder, but she's gone cold, so you're putting a lot of pressure on Balagoon and on the freshman, Day Wilson, to be able to consistently go out there and score 15 or 20.
Dodson again is just working it in the paint, having her way inside.
And there's the effect of the 4-guard lineup. Duke generally plays 4 guards. They have 4 guards out there right now. So there's going to be a mismatch either on that primary defender or the help side defender, and Notre Dame is taking advantage. Goodchild
adds to the scoring for Duke. It had been a 10-0 Balagoon run in terms of who had been getting the scoring done for Duke. There had been some Notre Dame baskets on the other end, but no other Duke players had scored until Goodchild added some more. She has 5. But it really has been Balagoon creating and scoring most consistently on the other end for Duke. Miles tried to take it away, but stepped out of bounds. Tuesday on ACC Network and the ESPN app. After the NC State Virginia Tech men's basketball matchup at 7 Eastern, the second game of our doubleheader should be a good one. Michael DeVoe leads Georgia Tech against Paolo Banchero, and number 2 Duke at Cameron Indoor. That one starting at 9 Eastern. Good quick bucket for Akinbody James. Oh, that's Gordon. That is 7 now for Lexi Gordon. Quick bucket off the inbounds and a 1-point game.
Now Duke grabbing some momentum. Notre Dame with a few turnovers. Duke's making shots. They're putting more pressure on Notre Dame to have to score. Balagoon and Lexi Gordon, who has 9 points now, she's been very solid. She's someone they need to have in double figures on a given night. So that's a very good sign for the Blue Devils. She's feeling it, Jen.
But net. She is feeling it indeed, Gordon. Another bucket, and the Blue Devils now with a 2-point lead. Just over 3 left to play in quarter number 2. fans liking what they're seeing out of their team these last couple of minutes. It's been a 7-0 Duke run. They've made their last 4 buckets. Gordon has been a big part of that.
Kara Lawson brought Lexi Gordon to Durham to score. She is a scorer, and this is a really good sign for Duke that Gordon is getting hot. It's going to open up the rest of the floor for other slashers to attack, but goodness gracious, Olivia Miles. Knocking down a 3, staring at the crowd. Oh my goodness.
Miles has 11. Gordon and Balagoon each with a dozen. Here is Day Wilson, who's only played a few minutes in the game thus far. Minutes have been few and far between, and we don't know how much that may be the hand that Kara Lawson's been dealt with, how much she's able to go in this game, having been out. We'll see. Miles. Westbeld, quick look inside for Brunel. Tough shot, but makes it.
Look at how Notre Dame passes that ball. Miles with that quick pass to Westbeld, and then Westbeld, who is the reigning ACC Rookie of the Year, is a threat to score from anywhere. Gives a little shot fake, finds Brunel. That's unselfish play from a team that averages nearly 20 assists a game.
Now Notre Dame leading the ACC in that category and showing it off in that last possession. That's one of the things, Kelly, when we talked to Niele Ivey, that you said really stood out to you watching this team was just how unselfish they truly do seem to be.
No doubt. And you see certain teams where you have a lot of really talented players, but you know that player wants to get hers, or that player cares more about getting her points. As Notre Dame just continues to dominate in the paint. That's 26 points in the paint. But Notre Dame has 5 different players in double figures, and they're one of 3 programs in Power 5 to do that. There are very few egos on this team, according to Coach Ivey. They want to win, and they want to share that rock, and that's what you're seeing so far.
Good dish inside to find Akinbadi James. Her first points of the game. And then an opening in the paint, or at least it looked that way until Akinbadi James came over with the big stuff.
Dodson has been so good in the paint, and that time I think they just lost her in transition. Akinbadi James said, I'm tired of you scoring in the paint. You got 12 points, all of them in the paint. I'm going to go over there and protect my rim. What a block and a good recovery from Akinbadi James inside.
Under a minute left in our first half. Good quick finish again off the inbounds. Brunel finding Citron.
Notre Dame's been running those screening actions forever. The Princeton concepts that Coach McGraw brought to Notre Dame and that Niele Ivey still uses a majority of the time. It's tough to continuously guard those screens across the paint and up the line, and Notre Dame is just executing.
Day Wilson got a little stuck, still managed to get the pass off. 5 on the shot clock now. The drive by Taylor is good with her left.
We've almost had more points in this first half than we had in the entire Louisville-Georgia Tech game, and I, for one, love it.
A huge defensive battle in our first top 20 matchup in ACC Women's Hoops here on ACC Network. A different look for this one. Miles wanted the exclamation point, but Kelly, what a half of basketball. Notre Dame with a 3-point lead.
28 points in the paint for Notre Dame, 5 made threes for Duke. They're doing it in different ways, but man, these teams are fun to watch, and they can score the ball. Let's just skip halftime, Jen. I want to go right to the second half.
They may feel the same way, but we do have halftime coming up, and we've got you covered in the studio. Muffet McGraw knows this Notre Dame team well. There with Dallin Cup, they'll take you through halftime. Notre Dame also getting a little more help off the bench. 15 points there as Sonia Citron has done the bulk of that. She has 9, and then Sam Brunel with 6. So tight game. Still everything to be decided. Notre Dame's 2-0 in ACC play so far. Duke's still looking for their first conference win as they are 0-1. And the first drive up and in. Good start for Notre Dame for the second half.
Anaya Peoples with the strong attack. We hadn't seen much from her offensively. She's a great rebounder for Notre Dame. but it just shows that every player on the floor for Notre Dame, when called upon, can be a scoring threat.
Lexi Gordon, 12 points in the first half for Duke. Here's Taylor. Dishes back to Gordon.
It's a great cut. You got to make those layups to stay in this game, especially early.
There's Dodson going to work again in the paint. She has owned it this afternoon.
Jen, we can just say it. Duke can't guard Maya Dodson. And I think Niele Ivey is very aware of that. Duke, as we've talked about, they play 4 guards. They generally only have 1 post player in there. And whether it's Williams or Akinbody James, Dodson has been dominant against whoever Duke has thrown at her.
Gets a rebound too, and Notre Dame trying to run off of it. Good hands by Taylor to take it back away. Celeste Taylor going all the way to the rim herself. She and Miles both go down to the floor. There is a foul called.
I'm not sure where exactly the foul. I think they called the foul after that play, Jen.
Yes, because it was on Balagoon, who you just saw there.
Yes.
After both players went crashing to the floor. It was Balagoon back behind the play. That's her second. Haven't had many
If there
fouls
was
in
a
this game.
foul on that play, I feel like the person that got fouled was Celeste Taylor, but I don't know. It seems like they let quite a little bit of contact go on that play.
Yeah. Pretty clean game, though, in the first half. Just 4 total fouls committed by the 2 teams. And so here's a change on the interior. You talked about how Duke is going to try to defend Dodson. Now it's Jade Williams in, 6'5".
They're bringing in a taller player to try to guard Maya Dodson, but the other issue is now they're basically guarding Maddie Westbeld with I would say a hybrid player in Lexi Gordon, but Maya Dodson says, it just doesn't matter. Throw who you want at me. I'm going to keep rebounding. I'm going to keep scoring. Maya Dodson has been a revelation for this Notre Dame team who needed more of a scoring presence inside at that 5 spot, and Maddie Westbeld can play the true 4 spot, which is what she is. And Dodson has been the perfect fit for them.
You think that finding that perfect fit, be it new freshmen coming in or be it transfers coming into your program, is going to be a big part of whichever team finds the right chemistry as we now go down the stretch in conference play. Good move there by Peoples. As you talked about, Kelly, usually in there more for her defense, but had the first points of this half for Notre Dame. And then Duke getting some points on the run out. It's Balagoon.
And that transition play was able to happen because Celeste Taylor boxed out Maya Dodson on the other side of the floor. She was on the backside defensively, and she said, look, I'm smaller, but I have to make sure Maya Dodson doesn't get this rebound. And that allowed Duke to get out in transition.
Miles with the drive, a crossover. Took some contact, and then the ball taken right back away. Peoples, she might have tried to do her best Miles impression there, but it also got batted a little bit by the Duke defender.
A little sloppiness here from both teams as you see both coaches going to their bench, maybe trying to calm each of their teams down. You've got Citron and Brunel coming in for Notre Dame. I'm intrigued when we will see Day Wilson for Duke. To your point, Jen, she may be on a minutes restriction. We're not sure because of COVID protocol, but it feels like they need some points from her in the second half.
Yeah, just 8 minutes played in the first half for the freshman, who's the only freshman in the ACC to lead her team in scoring. Foul there was on Taylor, her second. And then Notre Dame just having some trouble getting the ball in bounds. Good defense by the Blue Devils.
That was perhaps a quick 5-second call, but still very good defense by Duke to deny all the entry points. And Olivia Miles looked like she was a little frustrated with some of her teammates there.
Goodchild Williams got herself some positioning inside, but there was a foul before she could try to get a shot off. Mabry coming back onto the floor for Notre Dame. In her second year with this Irish program after transferring from Virginia Tech, following in her two older sisters' footsteps, putting on that Notre Dame uniform.
Normally you don't want to save the ball under your own basket, so Sam Brunel taking a little bit of a risk, but it ends up paying off. And there's another 3-second violation. We've seen quite a few. I think there's been at least three 3-second violations called where post players are camping out in the lane. So that's something that Dodson and Williams and Akinbody James have to be aware of, because that's a turnover for your team.
Yeah. Here is Williams with her left hand, too strong. Good rebound, though. It's Balagoon getting in there. And Kara Lawson really talked about the versatility of Balagoon and how her size, her length, she's 6'1", but she can play so many different positions. She can defend a lot of different positions, and how that's been so big. And she's a player, Kelly, who goes after it and says, we need a bucket, I'm going to get it for you.
She does, Jen. I've always loved her motor ever since she was the ACC Freshman of the Year at Georgia Tech back in 2019. And she is, you know, we talk about different players. We say, oh, that's a two-way player. Balagoon is a true two-way player. She's a great defender with her length on the wing, and then she is a great scorer and has been more of a scoring threat for Duke in these last couple of games.
More women's basketball coming up Thursday on ACC Network and the ESPN app after Clemson, Florida State. That's at 6. The second game of the doubleheader, another Carolina battle between the number 24 Tar Heels and the 5th-ranked Wolfpack at Reynolds Coliseum. The Heels still undefeated, while the 12-2 Pack have won 2 in a row.
I'm excited for that game, Jen. And just think about what we have in the triangle right now. We have number 5 NC State, we have number 15 Duke, and number 24 North Carolina, and they're all going to play twice. So you have the three of the Blue Bloods in the ACC, and of course all in the state of North Carolina. And you look at these numbers, they're all approaching 400 wins, ACC wins as a program. It feels like they'll all get there this season, but the fact that they're all ranked in the top 25 is just great for the ACC.
Yeah, North Carolina does have a game coming up on their home floor in Chapel Hill later this afternoon on ACCN. They'll host the Clemson Tigers. Shot clock running down on Miles, who is playing with a couple of fouls, by the way. And you wonder if the freshman, for all the good she does, all that we love to see, you mentioned a little frustration showing itself. Is that something she maybe needs to try to be just aware of to keep her composure because her team needs her?
And sometimes she does try to do a little too much, whether it's in transition or in the half court, trying to force the issue. And she needs to rely on some of her other teammates. There are great scorers on this Notre Dame roster, and so getting everyone else involved. But Duke has stepped it up defensively in this third quarter, Jen, and it's translating to the offensive side of the ball. Celeste Taylor has gotten going, and now Duke right back in this game.
8-0 run by Duke. Celeste Taylor with 4 points in the quarter. A player you said early in this game, Kelly, was going to have to really get her scoring touch back. Her team needs it from her. Averaged over 15 in her first 7 games, but then had really quieted down, just under 7 points per game the last 4. Keeps it in here.
Great pass.
Step back for Balagoon. Got it!
What a pass by Celeste Taylor. Just flicked it behind her to Balagoon, who now has a game-high 19 points for the Blue Devils, and Duke is back in front, Jen.
The Blue Devils taking the momentum, taking the lead. Celeste Taylor having a lot to do with it. Sets up Balagoon, who steps back, knocks it down, and gives the Blue Devils the lead.
Back here in Cameron Indoor, and senior Elizabeth Balagoon getting a well-deserved rest on the bench right now. She has stepped it up in the last 6 games for Duke. Against Virginia Tech in their previous game, she had 22. That was a season high. Today, she already has 19 points. We've still got 4.5 left here in the third, and she's been so efficient. 7 of 9 from the floor. She's made 3 of her 4 3-point attempts. She has been excellent when called upon, and we knew she was going to have to step up for Duke. She's a big reason why they currently lead by 2.
Citron with the drive, Dodson with the rebound, and fouled on the putback attempt. And that will give us another quick break. 2-point game in Durham. Duke Blue Devils with a 2-point lead over Notre Dame. Let's give some credit, shall we, to assistant coach Beth Cunningham, who had the scout for this game, and why not? She knows this Notre Dame program well, having played there, was a part of the first ever Final Four team at Notre Dame. When she graduated, she was #1 all-time in scoring, and then, of course, spent several years on staff there with Muffet McGraw. So she knows this team pretty well, and when you asked Kara Lawson if she had the scout, that was a pretty quick yes.
Yeah, she joked around for a little bit, and she said, honestly, I would be stupid if I didn't have Coach Cunningham do this scout. And she knows Notre Dame very, very well. And she also knows when you're playing Notre Dame, you have to sustain their runs. They're going to go on runs. You have to be able to sustain that and go on runs of your own. And a lot of credit to Duke, because Notre Dame controlled most of the early part of this game, but Duke has hung in there. They've gotten defensive stops, and they've been able to get scoring from Taylor and Gordon and Balagoon, which is what they've needed to be successful.
Irish trying to cut into an 11-0 run. They do finally, and that's a good player to go to on the inside in Dodson. 18 now for Maya Dodson, the Stanford transfer.
With how dominant
Wilson
she's been
on the floor.
It almost feels like she needs to get a touch every half-court possession. Dodson does. There's really no excuse not to get her the ball, because when she does get the ball, she really can't be guarded right now.
Day Wilson still looking for her first field goal in this game. Had 2 free throws in the first half, but 0 of 6 from the floor.
And on that possession right there, Jen, that was a tough shot for Day Wilson and an excellent contest by Maya Dodson. So you've got 6'3" with their hand in the face of a 5'6" point guard. That's a tough shot for Day Wilson to knock down.
Peoples working off the screen from Dodson, gives it back. Day Wilson had it in her hands, jump ball the call. And it'll go to Duke. Dodson having quite a game, 18 points, 5 rebounds, been a big presence for the Irish.
And on that possession, you had a bounce pass. Peoples tried to bounce pass it in close quarters in the lane. When Notre Dame's been most successful getting the ball to Dodson, it hasn't been a bounce pass. Let her use her height, throw the ball up, and let her go get it. There is no reason to put the ball on the floor when you're trying to make an entry pass to Dodson.
This is a player who has really just blossomed as a grad transfer, 4 years at Stanford, where she designed her own major, by the way, engineering and ethics. So a very bright young lady on and off the court, Neil Ivey tells us. Citron somehow managed to get that ball back without there being a travel. Now there is an Irish turnover. But Dodson, talk about finding your place when you come and you join a new team. And think about, too, she opted out of last season, Kelly. Had some injury troubles with her left foot, only played 9 games in the 1920 season. So to be able to come and be such a big part of what this Notre Dame team is doing has to be so rewarding.
And she was a big-time recruit in her class. Neil Ivey has told me that she wanted her when she was a recruit, and she chose Stanford. But you know, when you come down to 2 schools, you obviously have a great relationship with the other school. And so Notre Dame seemed like the perfect fit when she was looking to transfer. And she's exactly what the Irish needed, a big post player who is capable of scoring the rock. That time a turnover, but we've seen what she's done in this game.
And Day Wilson still can't connect. We stay tied at 48. A little sloppy by both teams. It's kind of been that way more in this third quarter than it was all of the first half. Mabry left open. You know she's going to take that. First points in the game for Dara Mabry.
That is the kind of shot that Dara Mabry just hunts. That's the shot she wants. She faked like she was going to use the screen, crossed back, got a wide open look, and drained it, because she's a Mabry and draining threes is in her blood.
That is what they do. Balagoon, too strong off the back of the rim. 19 points in the game still for Balagoon. Quick down the floor. Dodson tries to keep it in, but didn't have anybody to help her pick it up. Day Wilson whirling, spinning, pushing off maybe.
That's a senior making a heads-up play on a freshman. Dara Mabry, yes, Day Wilson extended the arm, Mabry selling it just a little bit, but if you're going to extend that arm, Darren Mabry knows. The officials are looking for that. That's something that's a point of emphasis, and so Mabry sells it. That's a senior just making a heads-up play on a young player.
Yeah. And some frustration, to be sure, in Day Wilson and her return to the floor. 0 for 7 in the game. In her 12 minutes she's been able to play. Mabry keeps it in her right hand, drives, says, I'm not only about the three.
A 5-point spurt from Mabry, and we know Mabry's a little undersized. She did a great job of using her body to shield the defender so she could get that layup off.
Taylor.
Great rebound.
Good work by Citron. Got it out of traffic. Mabry continues her run.
A 7-0 Mabry run. It was tied at 48, and then Darren Mabry happened.
Lee Volker can't hit for Duke, so 2.6 on the clock for the Irish to try to tack on a few more and open up this lead. Citron will take it from about half court. Well, we've got some great talent on the floor and some great talent on the sidelines. Think you've heard all the stories? Not yet. A lot of Final Four experience in these coaching staffs. We'll tell you about it next. You want experience? We've got experience in these coaching staffs. All right, we are talking Final Four trips. So Tia Jackson on the sideline for Duke. Yep, she went there with Iowa back in 1993. You know about Niele Ivey at Notre Dame. Went there a couple of times, won a national championship in 2001. How about this next one? I know you like this Beth Cunningham shot, Kelly.
I love it. The hair, everything. It just screams 1997.
Carol Lawson, of course, going with the Lady Vols 3 times, 3 trips to the Final Four. And we're not done. We have 5 coaches in this game who went to Final Fours. Let's not forget one of the elder Mabry sisters, Michaela, who did it 3 times with Notre Dame. So it's not just our 2 head coaches who bring a ton of experience to these sidelines in this matchup.
No doubt. And those are just their Final Fours as players, because we know Niele Ivey's been to quite a few as a coach, and same with Beth Cunningham. So yeah, the experience I just thought was so unique. Not only the NBA experience for both of these coaches, but the Final Four and just the wins that these coaches have on their resumes as players, and of course in the coaching ranks.
Man, trying to get these 2 programs back to the lofty heights that they both have been accustomed to, both ranked in the top 20 at the moment. Notre Dame 17, Duke 15. And still everything up for grabs at this point, as we are now firmly entrenched in conference play. Jade Williams off the inbounds, too strong for Duke.
What a block by Maya Dodson, and such a great pass. That's where Notre Dame is at its best. Dodson gets the block, get the ball to Miles, get out in transition, find one of your scorers. That's what Notre Dame wants to do.
It's a very balanced Notre Dame team who have a lot of players who can make contributions in many different ways, and Taylor proving she can do that for Duke. Knocks down her first triple of the game after going 0 for 2 in the last game. She was just 2 of 12 from the floor in that loss at Virginia Tech, but starting to come alive for the Blue Devils.
That's how Duke can get back in this game, shooting the 3. You look at those numbers, they're 7 of 16 from 3 in this game. And that was a great job by the freshman Volker to attack the basket and kick to Taylor Philippin Look.
Mabry picked up her dribble, needed some help, and Duke said, you're not going to get it from Dodson. They were all over Maya Dodson. And then Goodchild gets down the floor. Good points in transition.
Duke flipping the script. Notre Dame just had a very similar play in transition. There goes Duke. And then there goes Olivia Miles. I would really put that in the category of, that's not fair, Jen. That is incredible that she can take one dribble from the 3-point line and just get to the rim so easily.
13 in the game for Miles. Those are her first points of the second half. Taylor now with a dozen.
Same exact spot. That's where she hit that 3 on the previous possession, and they get her back to that spot. She knocks it down. Duke now shooting nearly 50% from downtown in this game.
punch and counterpunch, but Notre Dame still with a 3-point lead. The Irish looking to stay perfect in conference play. They're 2-0 so far. Duke 0-1. Miles pulls the trigger quickly. Citron saying there was a touch, but our refereeing crew saying otherwise.
I'm not sure that's the shot you want if you're Notre Dame on that possession. Getting a good look at a three is one thing, but a fadeaway, step back three, that's a tough shot for Notre Dame. It feels like you can get a better look.
Every now and then, Kelly, we might be reminded that Miles is still growing, still learning as a freshman. Taylor maybe took a little bit of a bump. Shot was short. There goes Miles looking up the floor. Citron, tough job to get the ball under control. She draws the foul.
That pass is crazy. That pass is absolutely incredible, Jim, that she can do that with one hand. Look at this again. She makes that pass, and Citron with a great catch. Hit her right in stride. Olivia Miles may have missed her calling, needed to play quarterback somewhere, but hit her right in stride. That's a good connection, too, that those two freshmen have, Jim.
No, we're gonna keep her in our game here.
Yeah. No. I completely understand that. She also was a soccer player, Olivia Miles was, in high school. And Neil Ivey talked about how she thinks that may have contributed to her vision as well. And Jen, I know you know quite a few things about the pitch.
Oh, you're going to go British on us now, huh? The pitch, soccer?
Football, as it's called across the pond.
Football.
I don't know if you knew that, Jen.
Thank you. You know, Cal, you can always teach me something. Body James on the interior now for Duke, trying to post up. Draws the foul as she does so. Reminder, it's Saturday nights at 10 Eastern after our men's basketball doubleheader. Nothing But Net crew has you covered. They'll have highlights, analysis of all the games, and look ahead at what's coming up. It's coverage you can only find in one place, right here on ACCN and the ESPN app. Good move along that baseline. Citron finds a wide open Dodson.
Great job by Sonia Citron to attack baseline, draw the defense, and dish for another easy layup for Maya Dodson.
And the Irish opening up a 6-point lead now, trying to hang on, get the win on the road in Durham. We talked about the freshmen at the beginning of this broadcast. They have not disappointed. Olivia Miles continuing to do her thing for the Irish.
13 points, 6 boards, only 3 assists. It feels like she has way more than that, but she scored the ball well today. She's made the Irish run. She's made them play fast, getting them out in transition. She has set the tone, set the pace for Notre Dame, and this is what she did back on December 8th against Valparaiso. She had 11 points, 13 boards, 13 assists, triple-double. That's incredible.
Yeah.
To just do that once in your career is incredible, Jen. And she did it at the very beginning in her first season, her first full season.
9th in program history for the Irish, just a second by a freshman, and she's the only player in the ACC to have had a triple-double yet this season. We'll see what the call was by our officials. Duke trying to cut into this 6-point Notre Dame lead. Their largest for the Irish was 9.
I think that was just a kick ball. So the shot clock only resets to 20 for Duke on this possession.
Taylor with the drive, too strong. Body James left open and made the Irish pay for it.
The Blue Devils continue to hang around. They have to get stops on the other end. We know they can score, but can they get a few stops in a row to grab momentum back in this game?
Maddie Westbeld, one of those players who's been awfully quiet for Notre Dame in this run. We'll see if she finds a way to make it more of an impact. Leading scorer for the Irish on the season.
She has one field goal attempt. Yeah, she has one field goal attempt in this game. You and I were talking about that at one of the breaks. And it's really been because Dodson has been so effective. She's taking all of the paint touches at this point, but you'd feel like you'd want to get Westbeld more involved down the stretch. She is your leading scorer. She's only attempted 1 shot today.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Notre Dame, who's played a lot of zone,
inside.
they're in a man-to-man right now.
Well, they went to Balagoon, Kelly. She's been one of the hottest hands for the Blue Devils on the afternoon, 19 points. There's a good drive to the basket by Citron.
Just a freshman with that kind of physicality and that ability to finish at the rim. So impressive what Citron and Olivia Miles have done today, both in double figures for the Irish.
Good triple knocked down by Goodchild. Good one, and an important one. 1 possession game now.
Big shot by Goodchild. Duke is the better three-point shooting team. As you've seen, they've hit 9 threes today. That's how they're going to be able to continue to keep applying pressure to Notre Dame, but it comes down to stops. Can they get some stops down the stretch in these final 4 minutes?
And Dodson, who's been nearly unstoppable, really hasn't seen much of the ball lately on the offensive end for the Irish. Here comes Balagoon, gets the bucket, and will go to the line with a chance to tie.
Excellent decision by Balagoon. Some players may have tried to pass this, but Balagoon said, I'm going to keep it and finish with contact, going around Citron, using her right hand. Flex on him. Balagoon has a chance to tie it up right here with a free throw.
She continues her hot stretch for the Blue Devils. 21 points in the game. She's coming off a season-high 22. Cannot tie it with the free throw. One-point game in Durham. There is Dodson. Finally gets a catch inside, and can't finish. One of the rare misses for Dodson in this game when she's been that deep in the paint. Balagoon keeps curling all the way around the paint. Doesn't see a look she wants. Goodchild gives the Blue Devils a lead.
Balagoon somehow finding a way to get out of the paint, get the ball to Goodchild. Big time shot from Goodchild. She's perfect so far in this game. 5 for 5 from the floor and 3 for 3 from beyond the arc.
Westbeld tries to quiet the crowd, does so very calmly. Kelly takes it down to the other end, makes a bucket. She'll be going to the free throw line.
That's a big part of who Westbeld is. She is so calm. She never gets rattled. As we've talked about, she only has 1 shot attempt before that play, but she gets to the rim, draws the foul, and she hasn't tried to force it. That's a lot of credit to her. The game hasn't really come to her the way that Duke's playing with their 4-guard lineup. She's been more spread out in the offense, and she hasn't tried to force it. And that's a big credit, because a lot of leading scorers would have said, all right, it's my turn to go get some points here. But she hasn't forced it. A good job there getting to the rack and scoring. Needed that free throw, though, as we still have a tie game.
Yeah. 3 team fouls apiece. As we are under 3 minutes to play. Top 20 ACC women's basketball matchup. It has been a fun one. Taylor looking for the lead.
Big rebound from Jade Williams.
And Taylor passed up the look, tried to go back inside to Jade Williams, who I think at that point was just getting ready to rebound or trying to clear a path to the basket for Taylor.
With so few possessions left in this game, you can't have a possession where you at least don't get a good shot off. Turnovers have to be avoided right now, whether you're Notre Dame or Duke. You got to get a shot off, let your offensive rebounders try to go grab a board, but you just got to put yourself in a better position than that.
Mabry back out on the floor for the Irish. Good offensive rebound. It's Dodson with the putback.
And that's what I mean. You get a good look from Mabry. It doesn't fall, but you take that shot any day for Darren Mabry. But you let Maya Dodson go to work and continue to be dominant.
22 points in the game for Dodson. Irish with a 2-point lead for now. No more, says Balagoon, who ties it again.
Balagoon has been so good in the mid-range. Her floater game and her 10 to 12-foot mid-range game is perhaps the best in the ACC. At least it looks like the best so far in this game.
New season high for Balagoon with 23 points. Miles looks inside for Dodson.
What a pass, threading the needle to Maya Dodson, who finishes, adds on to her ridiculous game that she's having, Jen.
24 for Dodson. That was assist number 4 for Miles.
Need to see poise.
This is what you want.
Get a good look here.
Well, you're going to put it in the hands of number 4, Kelly. You feel pretty good about the look you're going to get. Balagoon continues to go off for the Blue Devils.
What a basketball game. Is it January 2nd or is it late March, Jen? Because this feels like a postseason game that we've had today.
Here we go. These two have been battling it out all afternoon long. 7 on the shot clock. Miles assessing her options. Lost it. Balagoon, will she give it up? No way! Takes it with her left hand. Duke with the lead.
Have yourself a ball game. Elizabeth Balagoon finishes with the left. She has carried Duke today. 27 points. And something tells me she's not done yet, but we talk about how good she is in the mid-range. It's so difficult to get to the rim like that, use your length, and then right here on the other side, right side on that first possession, left side in transition. She's so balanced, she can do it all. And this is the best game she's played in a Duke uniform.
27 points now for Elizabeth Balagoon. She is 11 of 16 from the floor, 3 of 5 from 3. As you said, Kelly has just been carrying this team. Every time Notre Dame has scored, she has had an answer. This time, she's going to force the Irish to try to find an answer down 2.
The efficiency is what's really impressive. Both of these teams, Jen, are shooting over 50% from the floor. Talk about making shots and having big-time players that can show up in big-time moments. That's what we have seen. High-level shooting in offensive basketball from both of these teams. And like you said, Jen, we'll see what Notre Dame has up their sleeve. Something tells me we could see some two-man game action with Olivia Miles and Maya Dodson. That has worked so well in this game so far.
Worked to perfection the last time. Shot clock, game clock, just about even here for the Irish. Westbeld picks up her dribble at the elbow. Needs a timeout. Not the way that Niele Ivey wanted things to go, and she knew it, so now she'll try to draw something else up.
There's no doubt Notre Dame was trying to go to Maya Dodson, and Duke did a great job. They knew that. I think everyone in the gym had an inclination that they wanted to get the ball to Maya Dodson. Duke defended that really well. I thought Westbeld was going to try to attack the basket more and do it on her own. She is their leading scorer, but it felt like she was trying to force the issue to Dodson, and it just wasn't there. You could go back to Westbeld in this situation, Jen. What I would like to see, perhaps, you've got 15 seconds left, as Coach McGraw has told me. She doesn't love to use ball screens in these late game situations, so you don't have any help side. Why don't you just clear it out and let Olivia Miles go to work? She can break down almost anyone off the dribble. But I am not a coach, so we will see what Niele Ivey draws up here as we're getting quite the view of her whiteboard, Jen. This is some serious camera work.
You might literally see what she draws up close to it. But, you know, to your point, I did wonder, too, when Maddie Westbeld had that ball, if she had been having more of a dominant game, would she not have even hesitated and just gone herself in that moment? Because she's certainly more than capable.
That's a great point. And I think with Dodson, too, because they were trying to get her the ball, the lane was clogged up. If the play was really for Westbeld, Dodson would have been told, get short corner or get out of the paint and let Westbeld go to work. And that's why I'd almost like to see a clear out situation, but get the shot up with 7 seconds to go so you can get an offensive rebound as well.
Now the Irish will have it under the basket. Miles to inbound. Westbeld gets it off the inbound. Does take it herself this time. Front of the rim, it's short. Dodson had the rebound. Citron gets it now. Dodson airballed it. Well, you can't say Notre Dame did not get the player that they wanted to have it. A couple of good looks, but they just couldn't finish.
They got so many good looks on that play. Westbeld had a great look. She just left it short. I mean, you're not going to get a better look than this for your leading scorer. And then you had Dodson with the first putback, and then you got another good look for Dodson right there at the ACC logo. Just leaving it short, maybe feeling a little tightness knowing how big the moment was. You almost wonder if those shots would have gone in if this is not a under 10-second kind of situation where you're trying to guide the ball instead of shoot it. You also had Mabry open at one point. Dodson kept the ball and shot it, which is a good decision, but you also had Mabry wide open. You don't need a three, but you did have one of the best shooters in school history open for a kick out.
Yeah, making those decisions, who to get the ball to and when, knowing the time and the score. Now Notre Dame's going to have to do it with their defense. Duke trying to hang on, pick up their first ACC win. They are 0-1 after the loss on Thursday. They can advance the basketball and do so. And Mabry knowing, as you mentioned earlier, it's not been a lot of fouls in this game. Notre Dame had one to give. Now they're at 4. The next one will put Duke at the line.
This is a tough spot with so little time left because you really can't trap and try to go for a steal. You just don't have enough time, especially with the fact that you had to give a foul just to even get to this next one.
A risky pass. It winds up in the hands of Miles, who needed to shoot it. She got it to Citron, but time ran out before that shot was taken. I'm sure that they will take another look to be absolutely sure, but Miles just could not get that extra pass she wanted, Kelly. She tried her best, but Duke hanging on to get their first ACC win of the season.
Wow, what a crazy finish. She got the steal, she made an incredible play, didn't realize how much time was left after the steal. You gotta just put that shot up, but look, as good as Olivia Miles is, and she is a true young superstar in this game, she's still a freshman, and that's a tough situation and tough situation to be in down the stretch. But all the credit to Duke, Jen. They came back. Notre Dame went on runs. Duke countered them, and Balagoon 27 points to lead the Blue Devils.
Big game for Balagoon. Big win for the Blue Devils as they hand the Fighting Irish their first ACC loss of the season. It was a good one, an exciting one, filled with a lot of offense, and we've got plenty more ACC women's hoops to go on ACC Network. For Kelly Gramlich, I'm Jen Hildreth. We'll say goodbye from Cameron Indoor Stadium, and our crew in the studios got you covered.